Okay, I think we're recording. Nathan from Chamber is unable to be here. Susan is unable to be here and she wanted it recorded. And so we're doing that. So hopefully everybody's comfortable with that. And Blair is on his way to the desert, which is hardly fair, but we'll let him do that. And I think that's kind of everybody. So I think we'll be short. That being said, if everybody's comfortable, I think the agenda will be to bring everybody up to speed on where we are with David Thompson and that feedback, and then do a quick check-in, and then if anybody else has anything for the good of the agenda, let's do that, and then we'll be off and running. Anything that anybody wants to put on the agenda so it's there and we don't forget? Okay. I'm not sure who all Blair, I know he reached out to all of us about the questions that David Thompson had, who, Tracy, for your knowledge, is the developer of the potential space that we are looking at. By the way, maybe before we get started, Tracy has not been involved in this meeting for a long time. Would it be helpful, Tracy, if we did a quick introduction of people?
Yeah, that might be helpful just so I know who everyone's with.
Okay, I'm with Art Walla, and am also the treasurer of the nonprofit that we formed to be the entity of this. So, Bob, why don't you?
Sure. Bob Schumacher, president of the Choral Society.
Kendra?
Hi, Kendra Golden. I am on the board of the nonprofit as the secretary.
Rachna?
Hi, I'm Rachna Sinnott. I am also on the board of the nonprofit, and I was previously on the board of Carnegie Picture Lab. So I'm sort of their representative to the board.
Leah?
I'm Leah. I'm from the Walla Walla Symphony.
Gary?
I'm Gary Gemberling. Hi, Tracy, director of Walla Walla Valley Bands.
And Mr. Jameson?
Tracy, John Jameson. I'm with the Walla Walla Piano Group. We have a piano available to nonprofits. So if you guys need a good Steinway grand piano, let us know.
What's up, Walter? Thank you. Yeah, I'm Tracy. I'm with Shakespeare Walla Walla.
Great. Okay, thank you. Forgot about that little piece. So thank you for all of you responding to Blair with questions, helping him answer the questions for David. He has subsequently sent off answers to as many of those questions as possible. Again, you know, most of them are semi-hard to answer because, you know, we're not space planners and, you know, it's the chicken and egg thing, but I think we at least provided him a pretty good map, and I think he's feeling pretty good about, David's feeling good about what he has to move this forward and get back to us with potential amounts of space and where those spaces might be. And I don't know that we're going to get financial numbers, but I think we just need to keep pressing him on that. as we move forward. The other thing that he wanted and was potential pictures of spaces that are like spaces with other shared spaces for the arts or other shared spaces. And we directed him to our little website that was set up 2 years ago plus, with pictures that NCN had provided us of various shared spaces, because those are what we have right now. So one thing I would like to ask of everybody is if you have any potential pictures that you have seen, spaces that you have seen, ideas that you have floating in your head that you can find a picture of. I think the more of that stuff that we feed in his direction, it would be great. So, and it looks like Leah has her hand raised.
Yeah, is this more for like a point of inspiration in terms of like aesthetic or in terms of function?
I think it could be both. I actually think really it could be both. I think initially the question was sort of aesthetic, and there's one particular picture in my mind that's on the website that has sort of, you know, some closed offices, but, you know, high ceilings, which is what this space has, and sort of dividers that are frosted glass, and, you know, kind of a cool inside open hot desk kind of area that I think is an interesting one. But any other ones of those, and I would say on both sides, both functionally, if there's spaces like if Picture Lab has, you know, spaces that say they've seen of, you know, sort of those maker spaces, I think that would be a great
And
picture.
do you want us to send these, sorry, Tricia, do you want us to send these to you to gather or to Blair, or, I mean, I guess
Why
having them.
don't you send them to me in the next
Okay.
couple weeks, and I'll just forward them on to David. But I think that would be really informative to David, and it would also mean that we would get more of what we want. So if everybody could just dedicate a little bit of time to that, it would be great. Any questions about that piece of the puzzle? Okay. The only other real update, I mean, I think we all know that Blair sent a letter from on our behalf to the city of Walla Walla and College Place regarding the creative district. And where we are right now is that the city of Walla Walla, the city council has it on their agenda to pass a resolution at the March 23rd meeting that they're in support of it. And once we get that, Elizabeth Chamberlain from the city is going to write a letter of interest to Artswa and in support of doing this district. So she's going to be the one that puts that together and puts her application together. At this point, it looks like Artwalla might be the fiscal entity that manages money that comes in, because we kind of think the two cities can't do it because they operate separately, and downtown Walla Walla only has in their mission to sort of be downtown Walla Walla versus College Place. And so it looks like Art Walla will probably be designated that way. So, you know, hopefully that designation will happen, and it'll open some doors for us in terms of funding. Does anybody have any questions about the creative district? Yes, Bob.
Do you have a potential timeline when we might find out? I mean, do they have an agenda posted already at which time they will deal with this?
My understanding is that applications or the letter of interest is due March 31st. So we're kind of up against the deadline. And that they would make a decision, you know, within a couple of months of that. I mean, I think there'll be some hoops, and maybe Annette Roth from ArtSwa would come over and do a visit and meet with potential stakeholders and sort of see the district. Because I think the biggest thing about sort of our application is that we're asking it to combine 2 municipalities. And that's not something they've done before. You know, they like it to be sort of a smaller, more concise. But when you read the thing, it says, you know, easily walkable, bicycleable, and drivable, which, you know, when you think about going to College Place to Walla Walla, you know, it's no more than 10 minutes. So I think it fits into those. It's whether or not they like that definition, but they said they're willing to consider it. So I think it'll be a couple, 2-3 months. And I could be wrong. Depending on, you know, what hoops they want to make us jump through. Yes, Kendra.
I was just, is there any sort of, I mean, I don't know, a public commentary period or something somehow that, I don't know, we could show support or voice support? Is there like a space in that meeting where they invite commentary or anything like that?
The meeting on the 23rd, the city council meeting.
Yeah, or, you know, or write letters or something like that, you know.
Let me ask that question. I suspect there is. I don't know where it's going on the agenda. The only reason that there probably wouldn't be public commentary is if it's on some kind of consent agenda where they're just sort of pushing it through. But I kind of doubt that that's where it is. The Arts Commission approved it. They wanted to add Pioneer Park to being inside the creative district, which I think makes sense because that is a place where we do a lot of creative enterprise things. When you look at this group, even, you know, I mean, we've all used it at some point in time. So, so let me follow up on that with Elizabeth, and if there is, I'll send it out to people. And if you guys could send it out to any people that you think would be good stakeholders, that'd be great as well. And if you are sending it out, I think to help educate people, you know, the ArtSwa creative district thing on their website is really pretty good at bringing yourself up to speed about it. So if you personally have questions about it, or you're talking to somebody and they have questions, I think that's a great place to forward to people. Okay. Anything else on that? Yes.
Sorry, this isn't about the creative district thing. It was a new item.
Okay. Go for it. We're there.
Would it be helpful to talk about the Building for the Arts grant opportunity that I attended the webinar on, and just kind of a
Yeah.
brief update?
Yeah.
So there's a pretty significant granting opportunity that's available through the Department of Commerce, and WWAC, or the State Arts Commission, is kind of the advocate arm of it. And I attended their webinar earlier this month about it, just to learn a little bit about how it works. Basically, it's a bricks and mortar kind of funding opportunity up to $2 million, and it's specifically designed for projects like ours. The biggest catch right now is that the kind of the cycle, the timeline is only every few years, and it's popping up this summer. So it might be a little bit tighter than what we're ready for, because unlike some other granting opportunities, once you kind of put forth your proposal of what your granting project is, it has to be really watertight. There's not a really lot of opportunity for kind of fluctuation after a grant was approved. So the grant application is not yet available. It'll probably be due in late summer. But I think kind of what my gut tells me is that it would be good for some group of us to meet with the WWAC, or the State Arts Commission representative, who's kind of overseeing and liaising with the Department of Commerce around this. And Rachna, I don't know if that would be something that you might be willing to join, because you speak granting a little bit more than some. But just to kind of talk to them about kind of where our project is, you know, what are the knowns and the unknowns, where we might be going from here, and get some recommendations from them, because it could be a very significant funding opportunity. If we could, you know, get the ball rolling as soon as this summer, but if not, it would be, I think the next opportunity would be in 2025. So, I mean, still potentially within the scope of what we've been talking about in terms of timeline, but I did take some notes. They're in our shared Dropbox if anybody wants to know more. I'm happy to do my best to answer any other questions.
Yeah, I'd be happy to participate. Isn't this the one where the applicant, the building has to be in possession of the city or something? I thought that was what
I wonder if you're thinking there's an NEA opportunity called Our Town that has to have a government or a city, like,
yeah, those are partners, but I'll check, because
okay.
I think I remember.
Okay,
Because if you're building a building, I mean, if it's for capital, I feel the Department of Commerce grant said that not for the problem with our building, I thought, was that nonprofits don't own it.
Yeah.
This owner owns it and we don't rent it. I thought there was a question that, but
okay.
I could be remembering wrong.
That would definitely be worth clarifying. It didn't jump out at me when I was in the webinar, but I wasn't necessarily having my spidey sense up about asking about that. My recollection is that it was for new building as well as for renovation, but where and who ownership is, I'm not clear on.
Yeah, and this is, this will be a biennial thing, because it gets approved in the biennial budget by the state. And so if we can't make it this year, it would be 2 years later probably. And but I'll look at it, and I'll participate in any discussions.
Awesome, thank you so much.
I don't think that it has to be the city. Because I read through the whole thing and read Leah's notes, and that did not pop up for me as a red flag in the whole thing. It was more what Leah said, which is we're not quite there, we're not watertight enough. And it would mean, David has not talked at all about LEED certification, which, is sort of the green certification of buildings. And I don't think it has to be at the top of the LEED certification, but I don't know that David is in that mode of thinking LEEDs, because that adds significant expense, potential significant expense to buildings. So it would be an interesting conversation to have with David.
Yeah, the only thing that I jotted down in the notes about ownership was that we would have to have binding control of the project site through either ownership or a 15+ year lease. An operating agreement would not be sufficient to meet that requirement, but still worth clarifying.
Yeah, no, and maybe that's what I'm thinking, because we don't own the building. And I wasn't sure about the rental issues, but that would be something to put on the list to figure out.
Did I forward to you guys just the monthly email from the Columbia Center for the Arts to all of you? I think that is also sort of an interesting educational sort of, thing to think about as we move forward with once we get more into our business performa about whether we want to look at other groups being able to rent the facility. I mean, that's down the road, but I think we should sort of just keep it someplace in the back of the Rolodex.
During the webinar that I was in, they referenced one of the successful people who had received a grant a couple of years ago was the Kirkland Arts Center. And I had jotted it down as somebody else that we should talk to because it seemed that their scope and scale was pretty similar to what we're talking about. And they got $250,000 in this granting project.
Once Blair gets back, I think let's think about trying to schedule a Zoom meeting with the ArtSwap people, and we can put it out and whoever wants to join it can join it.
When is Blair back?
He's back at the end of the month.
Okay.
So-
Why don't I reach out to the ArtSwap people and see if I can get something, and I'll aim for a Monday at noon, just because that seems to be generally doable for many. And then anybody who would want to come would be welcome to. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Maybe like the second week in April or something. The first week in April is not good for me, and we'll give Blair a chance to get back. And
Sure, I can ask specifically about what is that, April 11th at noon?
Okay,
Okay, I'll ask and I'll report back.
great. All right, any other hands to raise? Then let's do, oh yes, Bob, saw that.
If you're ready for another topic, I can wait my turn, but there is a question I have.
That we're ready for another topic.
Okay, are any of you aware of another performance initiative that involves the amphitheater out at Fort Walla Walla? And is there any opportunity for collaboration with them on this? Is there any overlap of scope?
Everything that I know is like 4 steps removed, but I've been trying to track down Tyson Kopp is the person who I know is very involved. And so I would like to connect with him. I just haven't yet. We keep, crossing paths because our kids do similar things. And so we keep saying, oh, we need to talk, but we haven't yet. So I can try to follow up with him.
One of our board members is involved with that initiative. Jim Wilson, if any of you are aware of Jim. So if there's any way we can put some people together to delve into this a little deeper, I think it might behoove all of us to find out more at least. So any way you want to proceed with that, I can see if Jim has the time and inclination to be a part of that conversation. Just let me know.
So Leah, can I sort of put that's in your initial ballpark to see if you can connect with your contact, and since you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, if your board member is more connected, that might be faster than me trying to connect with this parent, because we've been trying to for a while.
Okay, would you want him to address this body? Is that what I'm to understand, or how would you like to have Jim involved? Anybody?
To him about, I mean, have you guys had any conversations about potential overlap or discussions?
I had a
I know
brief
about it is
conversation.
what I read in the paper, so.
I have a brief conversation with Jim, and there seems to be some possibilities. They're talking, it's basically an outdoor venue, and they're apparently looking to renovate it to the point where it can be rented and or used for anyone who wants to engage in a formal relationship with that organization, contractor, otherwise, to use the facilities. So other than that, I know very little. So if there's a way that we can proceed with gathering more information through Jim, I just need to know how you'd like to have that proceed.
Would it be possible for you to talk to Jim and just report back at the next meeting?
Sure, I can do that.
And then if there's further follow-up conversation, we could, go from there.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is establish a point to point. So I'll have that conversation with Jim. Our board meeting is tomorrow night, but I'll see him tonight at rehearsal. So
Yeah, I think, anytime where we have, so often we're all out sort of doing our own thing and not being aware of what each other's doing. If all we're doing is that, I think that has a lot of value. And then exploring whether there's some overlap would be great. And if he wanted to, give us 5 minutes of his time and, be at the first of a meeting and tell us what's going on, I think firsthand, it would be great to have that as well. Okay, can we do a quick yes, Mr. Gimberling?
Hey, I'm circling back to the building and David. I just want to make sure I'm clear with regards to what he's doing. Is he just kind of being patient and waiting for us to say, we want to start moving forward, or is he doing some of the renovation and cleaning up and what he thinks he can do that wouldn't disturb what we might have? I mean, where is he?
What I know right now, and what is, getting him sort of to really get more specifics from us, is that he is at the same time he's, working with us, he's working with potential other tenants of that building. And I think he is at a point now where he has a number of potential tenants and is starting, and his plan is to really start moving in and starting with some of the renovation. Now, the beginnings of that renovation are really very, rudimentary infrastructure, roof, and, and demolition and doing a bunch of stuff like that has nothing to do with how he's planning space. But he's also working with his architects and with these other people and with us to, try and put together a plan that works. And without anybody committing. I mean, we have not committed, to being a tenant, to any kind of letter of agreement, that kind of thing. So there's still no commitment. It's just, he's starting to work on it. There will be movement, but it's the sort of the beginnings. It's the demo and the initial infrastructure stuff that he's working on.
So does that give us any sense of urgency, or like if he's not, I mean, he's a businessman, right? So if we keep dilly-dallying and can't make any decisions, are we gonna potentially lose out because he can figure out better ways to rent the space? What kind of timeline are we thinking of? Do we know?
We do not know. I would be happy to have that conversation with him, but I suspect, you know, where we are in this project is we are sort of filling out space that is less desirable to rent on a retail space. And so what's most important to him is, you know, to get the front of the building, the higher paying rent people sort of shored up. And, you know, he would love to have us for multiple reasons. One, it makes the project, he has somebody to put in that back end, but, you know, it's not going to be a high paying. We're not going to be the high rollers in that project. But he's also just, you know, he sees it as an important way to support the arts, which are really important to him. So, but I'm happy to get a sense from him and report back. But I don't think we're at a place right now where, you know, in 2 months we have to decide yes or no.
Yeah, and I appreciate that he's wants to support us, but, you know, also if he finds someone who wants to pay money for the space right away, I mean, he may, as magnanimous as he might be, you never know.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think, certainly we don't have a plan yet, but I do think we should have a little bit of a sense of urgency to have a timeline created at some point so that we don't keep having meetings where we talk about the same thing over and over again and not make any decisions. Which I think we're doing we're doing a fine job, but just keeping that in mind that, you know, he may not wait for us forever if we decide, you know, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for us to make any concrete decisions.
Right.
This is probably the best opportunity that this project will ever have as far as being affordable and location and all that stuff. So I would hate for it to slip through just because we can't figure out what we're doing, or it takes too long to figure out what we're doing.
Right. I will talk with him and I will report on that at our next meeting. I think that's a really important thing to do. All right. Now, I'm going to ask one more time. Can we do a quick little check-in? We've got about 35 minutes. If we can do it quick, that'd be great.
Okay, go, Kendra. Go. All right, I'll go. Valley Band, not much to report. Pretty much the same as last month. We're rehearsing. We announced last week to the group that they have the option to not wear masks and to wear masks if they so choose. We pretty much noticed that through the last month, basically, a lot of individuals, at least when we're rehearsing, aren't wearing a mask. Some are. So the transition to no masks has been going to be pretty seamless. We foresee. So that's kind of where we are as far as the COVID protocols, but looking forward to a May 1 concert at the Valley Academy.
Great. Kendra.
Now that I've found my microphone button. So I don't have anything on the dance scene to report as you might suspect, but speaking of Tyson Kopp, he has formed performing arts company Walla Walla. So PAC Walla Walla is a and KPAC, Kids Performing Arts Company of Walla Walla, he has formed, and he is also, I know he has been on the lookout for a space to house that. And so he was looking at a space, and for some reason I'm thinking it was that that church that's over by Sharpstein. I think he was looking in there, and for some reason the space, whatever space he was looking at, fell through, just real estate wise. But he said that it you know, for some reason, if we ever found ourselves looking for space, that he would be more than happy to talk to this group about it. So so there's that, and I just wanted to put that out there, as long as his name was brought up in connection with the amphitheater and things like that.
I'll follow up on that, because I live next door to that church. And so, yeah, it's been on the market forever, but it was purchased fairly recently. And I talked to the random guy who was standing outside smoking about what they're doing to the place. And he did mention, now that you say that, they don't really know. He said TBD, but it may be an art space / housing space. But I don't know who he was with. And it looks like a couple of random guys were working after, you know, in the evenings and on weekends. So I was very curious about that art space thing, but I'm just keeping an eye out every day when I walk my dog to see what's going on. They've already cleaned it up quite a bit and gotten rid of a lot of the garbage, so it's already looking better.
Where is it? I probably walk by it all the time.
It's the church across from the Orthodox Church, and across from Sharpstein, so Howard and Newell.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Bob.
Walla Walla Choral Society. Mark your calendars for May 15 and 16 at the Giza Powerhouse Theater for the 1960s music extravaganza. Good vibrations. It's going to happen. At the same with Mr. Gemberling's organization. As I announced to some of you earlier, we, as of Saturday, gave our option of masked or no masked rehearsals. And for vocalists, that is huge. So I was hoping that both Blair and Susan would be at this meeting, because they promised me that the minute the mask mandate went off, they'd come back. So I'm looking forward to strong arming them to step back in. We can use them. Anyway, it's going to be a great concert. Everything from the Beatles through the Beach Boys. So a lot of good times to be had there. So we're back in session. Looks like it's going to happen.
Great. Tracy?
Currently have about 50 singers now. So
wow.
Really pleased. And with the max, I mean, we do require protocol wise proof of vax. So we're going to stick with that for the time being.
Tracy, anything to report from Shakespeare Walla Walla?
So right now we're working on our in-school programs and trying to get a few of them into the schools before the end of the year. We are hopefully participating in Summer Soul again. Outside of education, we're hopefully having our Whitman summer production at the amphitheater at Whitman College. We just received director proposals for that. We are looking for a rehearsal space. So if anyone knows of a space that would be available soon, we usually start rehearsing that in the spring. That's a thing that we look at every year, trying to find a rehearsal space. So yeah, so that's what we're working on now. We are performing a free reading at the Frazier Farmstead Museum in Milton Freewater on April 2nd. And we might be doing some other readings on April 23rd for Shakespeare's birthday. We're just working on a location for that.
Art Walla, we're Art Squared Call to Artists opens on April 1st. So we're getting ready to get our 130 artists signed up for that event, which is always fun. We also whatever the first Friday in April is, I think it's Friday, is the beginning of Art Walla's First Friday Art Tour, which, you know, we've sort of done virtually for the last 2 years, but we are going less virtual and have about 10 participating venues around downtown and Foundry and Kavu Cellars. So, and our hope is that as the weather gets better, that we will also find people that are willing to get a little bit of money to do some performances in downtown, and, you know, sort of either busking or in the showroom in the open common areas. So, and that could be anything from music to literary arts to a Shakespeare Walla Walla reading. We'll be reaching out to people about that as well. So, but we're not doing that in April or May. We're kind of letting the first two happen. That's all that's happening with our Walla. All right, well,
Great, I'll jump in. With the symphony, we have a concert coming up at the end of, oh, sorry, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the symphony, we have a concert at the end of the month. We are finally getting to kind of go home to Cordner Hall. We are lifting our mask requirement, but because we are going to the Whitman campus, we are subject to their COVID policies. So it's not only vaccine required, but also booster required. So we'll see how that continues to go for our audience, but looking forward to being back in Cordner starting at the end of the month.
Leah, could I just say thank you for Chanticleer?
Oh, good. I'm so
That
glad you enjoyed it. That was
was
really fun.
Amazing. Just amazing.
It was a very symbolic program for us too, because they were the first program that we had to cancel when the pandemic first hit. They were scheduled to perform originally in April of 2020. So finally getting them to be able to be here and to perform was kind of symbolic. So that was exciting.
My cheeks ached from the smiles.
Oh,
It was
good.
just
Thanks,
phenomenal.
Bob. Glad you liked it.
yeah, it was great. Well, great. This is a good meeting. It is recorded and I'll figure out where I need to put it, but, and so both Blair and Susan can see it. And we've all got little pieces that we're going to follow up on. So I'll look forward to that. And our next meeting should be, should it be the 11th? Is that right? Or is it the 4th?
Well, we've been doing second Mondays, but if I set up that appointment with the Arts Commission around that granting opportunity, we had said maybe on the 11th, but I mean, that's flexible, so I can find another time for that.
Well, we could move our meeting to the 18th. Is that spring vacation or Easter or any of those things?
The 18th works for me.
Okay, let's move it to the 18th and we'll see about the 11th for the other meeting. Great. Thank you all. Good meeting.